Worthy Questions. November 3, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. I am doing correspondence today, and as I have piled through stacks of letters I have extracted questions, and answers, that in one form or another, keep coming up. I can respond to these queries one at a time, or I can publish the answers and hope that everyone reads them and shares the answers. Here's hoping, and today's sampling. 1. When did the corporate government ever fix anything, without making something else worse? Never, in my experience. It's to their advantage to create new service opportunities for themselves, so they spawn new problems in order to have a never-ending roster of problems to solve, at our expense. The condition of society as a whole continues to devolve as a result of this hidden profit motive on the part of the government service providers. 2. How can we possibly win against institutionalized evil? By my Spirit, according to Zechariah chapter 4 verse 6, and no other way at all, but word of mouth never hurts. 3. How do you finance what you do? My own retirement resources and donations. This is still an all-volunteer government of the self-governing people. We receive no tax or other revenues from the interlopers, who are also stonewalling our access to our own assets. 4. Why do some courts use "so help me God" and others do not? The municipal United States government is a foreign theocracy run by the Holy See, so their courts use this phrase despite our government's separation of church and state. 5. I am confused by what is public and what is private and things like public notary versus notary public. What you are seeing is the mirror image effect of what they have done with our government. Our public courts have been unlawfully converted into private courts, ditto all the offices which appear to be public, but are in fact, private corporate offices. We are now engaged in a lawful conversion of these corporations and reversing the so-called privatization of our government. Obviously, a public notary is a public office, but a notary public is a private corporate office. Notaries can and do function in either capacity, depending on how you set up the paperwork. 6. We have a few justices of the peace here and in the surrounding counties, and they are waking up. What can we do to help them? After everyone concerned has declared and given public notice of their proper political status, you can all pitch in and provide the JPs with real courts again. Form and join your state assemblies, which will automatically also fill your county assemblies and jury pools. Your JPs need clerks and bail bondsmen, secretarial help, competent coroners, court deputies and fully empowered public notaries. There's a lot of research to be done and a lot of volunteer positions to be filled. They would also appreciate donated office space and secure storage for court records. I am sure that every JP in this country will appreciate the support and assistance and will repay you by providing a viable option to the foreign court systems. 7. The only state government I know of is the state government. I notice there are only a few things that simply say, state. Everything else is state, like state of California. Why? Our states are populated by state citizens, but we have been misidentified as federal citizens, instead. This results in our states being vacated, and that in turn leaves them and us at the mercy of foreign territorial and municipal business organizations doing business as states of states, as you have observed. We are supposed to be operating our own state, for example, the state of California, but have not done so since the Civil War. That is all part of the reconstruction that has never been completed. So, until we do our job and repopulate our states and assemble our states and then reconstruct the actual American states of state we are owed, the actual state, for example, Georgia, exists as a state trust doing business as Georgia State. We continue to have state office buildings and state courts and state colleges, etc., that are purchased for us, and the legislatures continue to wear two hats, passing occasional general session laws for the state trust, and otherwise passing statutory laws for the state. As the years have passed and public awareness has waned, the territorial state organizations and the Roman municipal state organizations, which should not properly exist in this country, have become predatory and have acted in breach of trust with respect to our states. I suppose they thought that after 150 years of this train wreck, nobody would notice, but we have at long last. We are fully competent and enabled to declare our political status, operate our states, our courts, and everything else. We simply have to wake up and do it. So that's why you see state of state instead of state, and that is also why you will increasingly see state organizations in operation as we reclaim our lawful government and boot up again after this long hiatus. 8. Why do people blame you for what happens to them when they don't follow your advice? I suppose it is a variation of accusing others of what you do yourself, or as the English describe it, the pot calling the kettle black. What happened with the Colorado 9 is a good example. I had been working with them to reclaim their birthright political status and to resurrect their proper state government, rebuild the state and county courts, etc., as described above, but a fast-talking federal insurance agent named Michael R. Hamilton gained their confidence and misled them. They took his advice, not mine, and got in trouble, yet some people continue to blame me for these unfortunate results. I still get blamed for Michael R. Hamilton's dirty work and for the Colorado 9's failure to listen to me. Go figure, again. Read article 484, on my website, www.annavonreitz.com, which was published at the time and which gives a blow-by-blow of what actually went on and what I actually advised. Let me make this eternally clear, I provide water. The horses have to drink it to get any benefit or protection from it. They have to learn what I teach, understand the history and the law, and consistently conduct their business accordingly, or they will get into trouble. And I can't help that. Unfortunately, too, many people only start searching for answers after they have gotten themselves tangled up in the federale's web, and are thoroughly enmeshed. Depending on the circumstance and issues, it can be very difficult to make these foreign courts let go of a victim, especially if the victim does not have a clear and consistent vision of their own identity, standing, and source of authority. A great many Americans waver back and forth across jurisdictional lines like drunken sailors, write great lengthy complex screeds where they mix two or more jurisdictions without comment, and provide these foreign courts with ample evidence that they don't really know who they are or what they are doing, at which point, it is easy for the foreign courts to justify a finding that these men and women are incompetent, appoint public defenders, and take other actions detrimental to the victims. Until we clean up our act, it is very difficult to force them to clean up theirs. It also bears repeating that if you are already in the midst of a foreclosure, a traffic case, or some other personal altercation, and you declare your correct political status in the midst of it, the action is not, generally speaking, retroactive. This is because your political status has already been misidentified as that of a federal citizen, beginning with the issuance of a territorial or municipal birth certificate in your name, and you are presumed to have been acting in that political status at the time you signed the mortgage or got into the fender bender or whatever else you're dealing with. So, no, declaring your proper birthright political status is not a silver bullet. It's only the beginning, the foundation stone of your proper identification, and the first necessary condition required for you and your countrymen to be able to enforce the constitutional guarantees and enjoy the lawful government you are heir to. Once declared as an American state national, you can, of course, sue to get the whole record corrected, but that is another whole battle to be fought. The best circumstance is to declare your political status as an American state national and give public notice before you get into any trouble at all that can be drawn into the foreign courts. And do the same for your children. Declare them to be American state nationals from the outset of their lives and avoid the whole issue of any presumed foreign political status. 9. I looked it up. You're right. A license is permission to do something that is otherwise illegal. Why would I need a license to get married or drive? You don't. They do. Remember that federal citizens are living in a different political status and in a different jurisdiction of the law, statutory law. You are, if you have reclaimed your birthright political status, operating as one of the people of this country. They are operating as foreign persons, under foreign law pertaining to such persons. When your parents failed to come forward and declare your parentage and political status, federal employees operating state-of-state franchises and agency-level bureaus claimed you as a British territorial United States citizen. So, they falsified the records, issued a new corporate franchise operating in your name, and subjected you to their foreign territorial law. Worse than that, the municipal United States government purchased an interest in this new territorial corporation franchise named after you, and that all gave rise to the presumption that you are a dual citizen, and both federal citizenship obligations are foreign, both subject to different foreign laws. Municipal citizens of the United States are, for the most part, slaves. Municipal citizens were subjected to marriage licensing soon after the Civil War. The fear was that freed plantation slaves would breed like rabbits and give rise to insupportable welfare burdens, so impediments to marriage licenses, were imposed on colored people. That's the ugly history of marriage licensing and the essence of the municipal government's demand that you obtain a marriage license, so that they can claim an interest in your relationship and the products thereof, your children, and thereby control your familial and marital relationships, divorce settlements, and so on. Marriage licensing is a hideous practice from the Dark Ages, like much of what the municipal United States government practices and does. It has, for example, continued to practice slavery and peonage and has institutionalized these venal practices for almost 100 years after these practices were outlawed worldwide 1926. The Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Pontiff, or whatever other name by which they now call him, is responsible for this, together with the members of the United States Congress. All I can say is, go get 'em. Nail them down. Expose them. Let everyone on earth know what they have done here to people that they are actually obligated to serve and protect. Marriage licensing unlawfully converts what is meant to be a sacred covenant into a business relationship, with the municipal government functioning as a silent partner. Federal citizens are also required to obtain driver licenses when they operate motor vehicles on the public roads for private profit. You are supposed to know whether or not you are either kind of federal citizen, and whether or not you are operating a business of that kind, and also whether or not you are operating a motor vehicle. And you are expected to act accordingly. As with marriage licensing, this is a self-regulating system of legal presumption. Why would you apply for a marriage license if you are not a municipal citizen of the United States, not a colored person, and not required to have one? Why would you apply for a driver license if you are not engaged in commercial business activities employing a motor vehicle for profit? Why would you sign up for Social Security if you are not a federal employee of some kind or a poor pauper seeking welfare benefits? Why would you ever act as a volunteer, withholding agent, and sign a 1040 form, if you were not knowingly acting as a federal franchise corporation and accruing corporate profit, that is, federal income? Would you do any of these things if you were not a federal citizen of some sort and obligated to do so? Obviously, not. And so, the foreign federal courts, both territorial and municipal, provide themselves with a basis for making legal presumptions about you and your obligations based on what you, yourself, do. Similarly, why would you accept a mortgage and agree to pay the debts of a foreign corporation, if you are not acting as a franchisee, shareholder of that corporation? By various means of restraint of trade, coercion, and abuse of public trust, these foreign business entities have been operating under color of law and have contrived to entrap millions of Americans into inappropriate and profoundly damaging commercial contracts and undisclosed obligations. You are never given any full disclosure about any of these practices or demands, or the resulting adhesion contracts, and you are regularly coerced and induced and misinformed by undeclared federal agents, all acting under color of law, telling you that you have to have a Social Security number, have to sign up for selective service, have to have a marriage license, and so on. This is only true if you actually happen to be a federal citizen of one stripe or another. This is just part of what we and our American government now need to address with our federal subcontractors. Declare and record your birthright political status, join your state assembly, and get moving. Your children and your country are depending on you to wake up and take action. Go to www.theamericanstatesassembly.net and get started on the road home, today.